At a mere 18 meters wide, Manhattan has just welcomed the thinnest skyscraper ever built in America. Scratch that. It's the thinnest skyscraper ever built in the world. Move over, Dubai, because the latest billion-dollar modern masterpiece sits on a stone's throw away from iconic Central Park. Welcoming the elite of the elite, the skyscraper is loaded with every conceivable luxury and amenity, not to mention the truly picturesque sunset views. How much does a condo cost in the world's newest IT building? What's included? And most importantly, how does the building stay upright during strong winds? Put on your real estate hats, as all that and more is about to be revealed. New York City has always been renowned for its skyscrapers. From the historic Empire State Building and Chrysler Building to the modern and iconic Freedom Tower, Manhattan offers up a postcard-worthy skyline that few cities around the world can compete with. As we jolt into a new decade, the limelight has shifted. Now, it's all about areas south of Central Park that's home to some of the most expensive real estate in the city. 57th Street is dubbed Billionaire's Row, and you're about to see why. Over the past 5 years, this specific road in Midtown Manhattan has registered 41 residential transactions exceeding $25 million, on average with a $38.5 million price tag. Those numbers officially award 57th Street the title of the world's most exclusive street. With skyscrapers popping up left, right, and center, 57th Street has attracted plenty of recent attention, namely thanks to two particular buildings. One, the Central Park Tower, which recently became the tallest residential building in the world, and two, the skyscraper at 220 Central Park South, which set all-time real estate transaction records when Ken Griffin, the billionaire hedge fund manager, forked out a starting $238 million for a handful of condos. However, there's now a third focal point. A new building is pushing its two counterparts and all of its neighboring Manhattan skyscrapers out of the spotlight. It's the fresh, eye-catching record breaker at 111 West 57th. Manhattan has always been crowded, but now, as the metropolis continues to evolve at never-before-seen rates, the 21st century has forced engineers to maximize the value from the small sites of land that remain available. This has triggered architects to think outside the box, and the result is a plethora of ultra-slender towers. None, however, is more slender than 111 West 57th. Sandwiched in between famous landmarks like Carnegie Hall and the Plaza Hotel, and straddling the southern end of the adored Central Park, this prestigious piece of real estate was always going to garner interest. However, as the circumstances changed over time, so did the concept. Plans for a modest residential tower at the next-door site of 107 57th Street were first laid out in 2005. It wasn't going to break any records, but given its location, would still carry a high price value. Eventually, the operation expanded, and the 107 project combined with several of its neighbors, including the historic Steinway Hall. From that point, the revolutionary 111 West 57th project, also known as Steinway Tower, was born. Faced with such a uniquely small site foundation, engineers racked their brains together. How can we maximize the space? How can we create an icon with barely any room to work with? And thus came the idea: build the thinnest skyscraper in history. Based on its width-to-height ratio of just 1 to 24, that's exactly what it became. The alarmingly skinny 85-story tower scrapes the clouds at 1,428 feet, largely thanks to its decorative top piece, which allows it to kick the tower at 432 Park Avenue off its perch. All things considered, the completed build tallied a whopping $2 billion. Even when taking into account the dramatic inflation, that's still a figure 3 times as high as the cost to build the Empire State Building. Constructing a monolith such as the Steinway isn't as straightforward as laying a few bricks on top of each other. Besides the physical construction costs, developers are also responsible for obtaining the air rights. Past condo buildings were constructed with the promise of unobstructed Central Park views, so the developers of the Steinway Tower needed to obtain permission from its neighbors in order to occupy the sky-high airspace. On the flip side, they wanted to ensure that no competing skyscrapers would start building and ruin the beautiful views that Steinway Tower itself had promised. With the average price for Manhattan air rights being around $225 per square foot, it certainly adds up when you're building a nearly 1,500-foot tower. The team behind the project, a combination of JDS Development Group, Property Markets Group, Shop Architects, and Spruce Capital Partners spent a whopping 15 years acquiring air rights from a cluster of neighboring properties, eventually creating an air bubble around the Steinway Tower that was theirs and theirs alone. Even after obtaining the airspace, to actually transition from concept to construction, the developers were faced with one colossal hurdle: the Steinway Hall. This historic landmark was built by the piano company Steinway & Sons and opened in 1925. Therefore, being a protected landmark, it had to be preserved and restored as part of any new development. Knocking it down wasn't an option. So that's exactly what the developers did. They completely restored both the interior and exterior of the historic building. Once they'd overcome the Steinway & Sons hurdle, it was up and away for the construction team. From 2014 up until 2020, almost 7 years, the tower grew and grew, consistently fascinating onlookers due to its unique shape. But with such a unique shape comes challenges. With such a slender frame, how is it possible to avoid swaying in the wind or being unearthed by tremors or storms? The architects created a fail-safe mechanism to ensure constant balance. At the top of the tower sits a 730-ton tuned mass. Think of this like a giant pendulum which counteracts the building's movement. Similar features are installed in skyscrapers like Taipei 101 and are known to reduce sway caused by wind by 30 to 40%. In addition to the giant balancing pendulum, outrigger floors are positioned throughout the tower. These floors consist of rigid horizontal structures which strengthen the overall position of the tower. Due to its remarkably thin build dimensions, there's only room for 2 elevator shafts, and there's certainly no room for an elevator corridor. So in order to maximize space, the elevators open directly into each apartment. And when they do, holy smokes, you get one jaw-dropping view. And guess what? Those views do not come cheap. Prices start at $14 million for the smaller entry-level apartments, and the further up you go, the further up the price goes, too. When the 2-story penthouse sold to an undisclosed buyer in 2019, any idea how much it raked in? $25 million? $30? Nope. Try a staggering 50 million smackaroonies. What? The building has an average asking price of $5,740 per square foot. Compared to the overall Manhattan real estate sector, which sports an average $1,773 per square foot, this is a billionaire's playground, without a shadow of a doubt. Just to put things into perspective, Miami Beach properties are 10 times cheaper than the Steinway Tower, at an average of $504 per square foot, while the typical Houston house is 50 times cheaper, with a median of $141. Are the Central Park views worth that much of a differential? Well, we'll let you make up your own mind on that one. So what does nearly $6,000 per square foot actually get you? Let's take an exclusive look and see for ourselves. The Steinway Tower's first finished condo, whose stunning interior was revealed to the public, is a 4,500 square foot 3-bedroom unit on the 43rd floor. A similarly laid out plot on the 44th floor is listed for $29.5 million, so consider this a mid-range condo in terms of this building. The open kitchen flows seamlessly into the living area, and that's where the opulence really stands out. Thanks to the floor-to-ceiling glass windows, you're presented with an absolutely stunning view. Since the building sits almost directly at the center of the park's southern border, the vistas of NYC's most famous park aren't just unimpeded, but completely symmetrical. On cozy days where drizzle and fog sweeps over the city, residents in the upper floors find themselves basically immersed within the clouds. The condo's enormous lounge room is more than 50 feet long. The dining room has space for 10 seated guests, while each bedroom comes with its very own ensuite, plus an additional powder room, just 'cause. The sparkling freestanding bathtub, however, is what really lures you into the glamorous main bathroom. As you can see, luxury touches hang in every corner. It presents a stark contrast to the way that the majority of New Yorkers are able to live in the city. Mega condo skyrises just like this one have actually faced recent criticism for fanning the flame of inequality. That was just a mid-tier condo. If we take the elevator up to the penthouse, then yeah, the opulence and luxury takes a dramatic turn. Of the 46 units in the entire building, there are at least 2 penthouses with asking prices over $50 million. There's penthouse number 74 for $57 million and penthouse number 72 for $56 million. Both of them boast 2 levels, which are connected by a secondary private elevator and a sculptural staircase. Across the 2 levels, which combine for about 7,130 square feet, you'll find Macuba stone flooring, 4 bedrooms, and 5.5 bathrooms. The master bedroom has its own entire wing with a sitting room and wet bar. And the master bathroom, wow, just take a look for yourself. The Great Hall, which is what they've nicknamed the living area, has room for 9 orchestral grand pianos. Scattered throughout the building is anything and everything you could ask for. A concierge service, a common and spacious terrace, private storage, a porte-cochere entranceway, and a valet parking service. Ornate golden gates even flank the front doors. What many consider to be the gem of the bunch, though, is the pool. Rarely do Manhattan accommodations have access to a pool, let alone one this size. The building itself is a stone's throw from high-class shopping, award-winning restaurants, that big old park we've been harping on about, and for convenience sake, it sits within walking distance of a number of subway stations. Although if you've got a spare $50 million in your pocket and can clearly afford the utmost in comfort, convenience, and security, there's absolutely no chance you'll be taking the subway. Probably cruising around in your chauffeured limo instead.
Should I take the Ferrari or the Bentley today?
Would you shell out millions for one of these condos? Or is something in the suburbs a little more appealing?